racing has always been a passion of mine. It started from when I was 5 years old when my dad first got me a model of a funny car. Mongoose and the Snake was really big back in the 60s. And that was the heydays of, the National Hot Rod Association and drag racing. Today, there's so many different sporting programs, ESPN, Fox Sports. Back then, in our days when I was growing up, all we had was ABC Wild World of Sports and Howard Cosell. That was, your Saturday fix was pretty much all you got, that came on the air. So watching the NHRA drag racing on Wide World of Sports and the Daytona races from the NASCAR, I was not very lucky where I knew racing was my passion at a very young age, but that was not something that I had my parents were into. So I remember watching the Daytona 500 and my dad coming to change the channel because that wasn't his thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I never got to do it until I was actually an adult where I could take the risk and the expenses because racing is very expensive all on my own. But I knew from a very young age, and especially growing up back in the heyday, like I said, where we had folks like the Evil Knievels and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
I forgot all about that.
So watching him and, trying to emulate him on your bicycle when you're out in the, playing with your friends on the weekends or after school and stuff. So it was always within me from back in my day.
So I guess, like, at what point did you, like, consciously decide, or I guess what was your first venture into racing, amateur racing, or anything like that? Like, a lot of people, like, I had friends who did dirt bike racing, things like that.
Right.
Were you involved in anything like that, or what was your path exactly?
I had never gotten into any type of form of motorsports in my younger youth until I was an adult. When I was in high school, I volunteered a lot with the 4-H program. So one of the guys who were in college at the time, I went to visit him at the dorms at UH, and he had a motorcycle, a small little GPZ, 500 or 350. It was a Kawasaki. And so he took me back home on his motorcycle back to my house in IL. And I got to ride on a motorcycle for the first time, and I thought that was just the coolest thing.
You were like on the back?
Yeah.
Like holding them?
I was riding on the back.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Anyway, right? So the guy was, taking me back. He was an older guy, so he had a motorcycle. I knew nothing about it, and I thought that motorcycles were the coolest thing. So one day, one of the local motorcycle shops here had a bike that was advertised in a newspaper. It was an Interceptor 500. And
what kind of bike is that?
It's a Honda. It's a 500. It's a Honda motorcycle.
Like a rice burner kind, or the
yeah,
other?
it's like when the first sport bikes started coming out. It was like 1986 or 85 or something like that.
That's when I came out the womb, man.
Yeah, so it's when they started getting into that crouch stance on the motorcycles with plastic fairings for helping with the aerodynamics and the wings.
Oh.
And so I just thought that was the coolest thing. So this one was like apparently abandoned and it was kind of ready for the junkyard. So we got to get it pretty cheap. Okay. My parents were never going to probably allow it to be kept in the garage at the house. So a friend of mine who lived across the street, I kept it at his house for the longest time. And I eventually got to meet a guy who we started riding with, and those guys would go out and race at Hawaii Raceway Park. And so I finally got to get out to Hawaii Raceway Park. Well, first of all, that bike that I had, a friend of mine let him borrow it, and he crashed it. Right?
Good friend.
Good friend. So he crashed that motorcycle, and then I heard from another person that I knew of this guy who could fix that motorcycle. So the guy who damaged my motorcycle, his father paid me whatever the cost was going to be to get it repaired.
Oh, wow.
And nice. I took it to this guy's house to go and get it fixed, and he lived not too far from us. And he started fixing the motorcycle, but he ended up spending the money on something else. So the bike that was broken that he was supposed to fix never got fixed. But eventually someone had told him, to do the right thing. And so they fixed me up another bike that he had that was sitting in his garage in a pile of parts and pieces. And it was a Kawasaki GPZ 750. And they started teaching me how to ride. And I started riding with these guys. And that's how I got interested in racing, because that's what they did. They went out to the Hawaii Raceway Park. So getting out there for the first time and watching them race, And then to actually have gotten over there on a street racing night to go down the racetrack that was a thrill.
And
I mean,
what was that? It was just like a straightaway for drag racing.
drag racing was a drag racing thing. You
And
know,
it's not. Is that the one that they always say was out like in Eva or something?
Campbell Industrial Park.
Oh, okay.
It's in Campbell Industrial Park. So now it's a whole bunch of warehouse spaces. They pieced it out, closed on a racetrack that was around since 1964. They closed it in 2006 after 42 years. And
What was the reason behind that?
greed in politics.
Yeah, typical.
It's one of the reasons why I kind of got into politics later on in life. But it's